Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Wait, Wednesday.
It's Wait Wednesday or just Wednesday?
It's Wednesday. I had to wait and figure out what day it was.
Okay.
I got to tell you, Tom, I was a little thrown back. Often I see the title screen in advance. And today I didn't. And it was funny because I'm reading it and it says time management and then right under it, ineffective. And I'm like, wait, that suggests to me that all time management is ineffective, which if that's what we're going to discuss, I'd love to have that debate because I would disagree. But it just caught me and just made me pay more attention than usual. Obviously, because I've now mentioned the title, which is rare for me.
I know.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. I am doing well on this glorious Wednesday. No special day today?
Yes. Oh, shoot. Well, it's National Donald Duck Day.
No.
It's also National Rhubarb Pie Day.
Rhubarb
You
pie?
choose which of those.
Interesting.
Yeah. I've all morning I saw that around 6:30, and I'm trying to figure out how to do a Donald Duck impression, but I do not have one.
Really?
I know it's very, very disappointing.
I thought everybody who did impressions had a Donald Duck impression.
Totally, it won't even compute.
All right. Well, that is what it is.
I can do Yogi Bear. I got a whole bunch, but not Donald Duck.
Fair. All right. Well, as you mentioned, Bob gave the secret away, although if people are paying attention, they knew our topic for conversation this week is time management. And yesterday we talked a little bit about it, although we were, this has been an interesting first 2 days of the week. Bob's been in his car. I disappeared the first day. The second day, Bob was in his car and he got hit. So
minor, didn't do any damage, thankfully. And the worst part was it wasn't even my car.
That makes it even worse. So today we're going to talk about when time management can be ineffective or ineffective ways to manage your time. And I think that, this whole conversation around time management is a fascinating thing to me. Because I think as I talked about to me on Monday, it was about priority. And how do we set priorities and how do we make that work? So as we think about when it is ineffective, is an interesting thought to me. And you said that you don't believe time management is ineffective. So why don't you share some thoughts about that?
Well, I think time management can be ineffective when you overanalyze it and drive yourself crazy about it. Like I can get in a place where if I'm 5 minutes late for something, I will lose it internally. Like if I'm going to a party and it starts at 4, I need to be there right at 4. I'm not a 4:15 show up late kind of guy. I don't like, just any time. To me, if you value the people around you, then you value their time. And valuing someone's time is being on time or being a couple minutes early. And it's interesting. Yesterday, I had a haircut appointment, and I got there 15 minutes early. And the woman was totally flustered. She finally came out after we made eye contact. She's like, Mr. Graham, your appointment's at 4:15. I said, yeah, She's like, if you want to go get a cup of coffee, fine. I'm playing on my phone. I'm good. Whenever you're ready. She's like, so then when I sat down, I said, hey, did I fluster you? She's like, you are the first person in a month to be 15 minutes early. And she said, I thought you just planned. I figured you thought it was at 4 o'clock, not 4:15, because no one shows up 15 minutes early. Now, I think when you and I were kids, the norm was to be early. And I think now it's much more scoot in right at the minute. Or I have a client who every time we meet, it's supposed to be like right on the hour. And he always calls me back like 3 minutes into the hour. I'm sorry, my last meeting went late. It's like, you didn't say to them at 5 of, hey, I'm really sorry, I need to cut this off. I have another meeting. Oh, no. That's what I would do. You know, I've certainly cut this off. Right?
Yeah. That's right.
Got to take mom to the airport yesterday. Sorry, Tom. Bye-bye.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, it's fascinating. So I'm curious of your thoughts about doctor's offices. I don't think I've ever been to a doctor's office where if your appointment is on a certain time, you go in at your appointment.
You are talking about one of the most difficult things in the world to me. And I'm someone who visits doctor's offices very, very routinely. And nothing drives me crazier than to get there at 8:30 for an 8:45 appointment. And I've had situations where I don't see the doctor until 11:30, 11:45. It's like, really? 3 hours? For a while when I was going to the doctor twice a month, I was actually camping out there. I would take my laptop computer and I would just claim an area of the waiting room. And they come over. I'm sorry, we need this seat. I'm like, then send me back for my appointment. And they'd be like, well, really, we need this seat. I'm like, help me. And so now they know me a little better over the years because it's been almost 25 years. They are much more, hey, why don't you take the first appointment? The other place that happens is courthouses. When I was a reporter, you know, the trials start at 9 a.m. Everyone had to be there at 9 o'clock. The judge would meet with the lawyers till 10, 10:30, 11:15, 11:30. It didn't matter. And you're just sitting there twiddling your thumbs. And I find it the height of disrespect. If you tell me a time, I believe that to be the time. And it's surprising to me that like golf courses, you know, you can't be late.
No.
People are not late to the golf course. If they have a 12:04 tee time, they're there at 12:04. They know that 12:06, you're out of luck. 12:12, you're done. And so if we can do it in a recreational setting, why can't we do it in a doctor's office? Why can't we do it with our appointments? And to the people who are chronically late for everything, I will tell you, this is where we're going to lose some people from us right now. And I'm just going to say, it's not the world's fault that you're always late. You have control over that. That to me is a sign of poor time management. The last couple of days, my time management has not been as strong as it could be. Some of it was out of my control, but some of it was within my control. And yesterday I worked really hard to get my time management back. I juggled some things around and made things so that I thought I was going to be late all day. I ended up being early all day. And it was because I made a big switch in my morning. It actually involved the show. Instead of going to meet my mother after the show, I went to meet my mother before the show and parked outside of her place. So I drove beforehand when I had more time.
Right.
And of course, it created its own set of problems. But I knew going into yesterday that it was untenable. And I think for a lot of people, they don't even think about, well, wait a second, I booked these appointments back to back, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. So you're not going to go to the bathroom. You're not going to go get a drink of water. You're not going to stretch your legs. And then you wonder why at 1 o'clock you've made a bad decision or done something wrong. And to me, that's ineffective time management. And I don't care if you're the CEO or you're the lowest level employee or you're a vendor, you have some control over that. One of my clients just got a $1.2 million contract to do some work in the energy field, a big contract. When they were announcing the award, they said to him, hey, we'd like you to have boots on the ground next week. And I had coached my client over the last couple of weeks. You can't just drop on the ground because it's not safe. It's all these things. He's like, yeah, but they're going to be really upset. He says to him, we can't be there. It's going to take us a couple of weeks to get ready. And they were like, Oh, wow. Yeah, that makes sense. Huh. Okay. I think we're more afraid to control our time management than is really appropriate. Whenever I've said to someone, hey, look, if you catch me at 4:30 for a meeting, I've got 7 meetings back to back. By 4:30, I'm going to be fried.
Right.
If you want me at 4:30, that's fine. But let me tell you where Bob will be at 4:30 mentally. And then they go, oh, well, how about tomorrow morning? Oh, that'd be so much better. Name your time.
Well, and I wonder so often if we get so programmed in our scheduling that it's overprogrammed. It's interesting. I was, and I may have told the story. How many stories haven't we told over 336 episodes? I had a boss who tried to completely change his schedule. And because
I've never heard this story. This is a new one, folks. Here we are. I was getting ready to say if you've never heard it before, it's new to you, but it's new to me. Bring it on, Tom.
And well, he saw somewhere that, typically people will be like, okay, I'll schedule on the hour. Well, meetings never end on time, and you got all the things in between. And so he was trying to go with, I would have a block at 9. I would have a block at 10:30, a 2-hour lunch window, then again a time slot at like 2 and a time slot at 3:30, so that he could finish the meeting, collect his thoughts, think about it, figure out what he needed, what were the outcomes, check messages, do whatever he needed to do, and then be able to go into the next meeting. And it's so true. I can remember days where I would have meetings at 9, 10, 11. And it'd be like, you're running from one to another, which means you're probably going to be late, or you're leaving one early. You have no time to process in between.
Or tell your staff, if you're managing,
right.
You walk out of the meeting, it's like, hey, we need to turn things around and go this way, not that way. And
right.
it at 9:05, and your employees finally discover it at 2:15, or never, because there's 6 other meetings in the way.
Yeah,
I did that a couple of times. Not good.
After 3 straight meetings, how much do you really recall? Like, all right, I look down at my notes and be like, oh yeah, what was that? And am I supposed to take that action? And so I think that, in trying to overly manage our time, we sometimes cause some of that inefficiency in that we think, okay, well, we'll just schedule on the hour. Unless you are diligent about meeting ends after 40 minutes, so that you have 20 minutes in between to do whatever you need to do, then you're likely not going to be able to meet the expectations that you're trying to achieve. And I think that's what happens in doctors' offices, is they feel like either they get a ton of cancellations, and so they like overbook, expecting that somebody's going to cancel, and when nobody cancels, they just deal with the chaos, and they make people wait.
You can't do anything. When you're waiting to meet with the doctor, they got you.
Yeah, absolutely.
They hold all the cards. It's not like you're going to be like, okay, doc, I'll come back later. The odds of my heart having problems are really slim. I'll just go home and.
And I think it's the same when people come to do service at your house. Mm-hmm. The challenge is they think, okay, I'm going to this job before, and it's going to take this long. Well, then there's an issue, and then there's a problem. And, so you've given me the block of, I'll be there between 11 and 12. Well, now you're not going to be there until 1 or 2. Now
you're lucky if it's a 1-hour block. Usually it's like we'll be there in the morning.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Or we'll be there sometime after 1. Like, oh, okay.
Well, and I don't know what the solution to that is, right? Because you're in an industry, sometimes you're in an industry where you get in, and because you're not seeing the problem, you're now trying to figure it out, and it's not always as easy as you thought. And so I think, those are some of the challenges, is you need to schedule. Would it be great if you could block your time out and say, like, I'm only meeting at 9, I'm only going to meet at 10:30. And then what happens when somebody else is like, well, my meetings are at 8:30, 10, because I start my day earlier.
Right.
So I think the challenge is that we have the way we want to do our schedule, and then others have the way that they want to do their schedule. And I think that's what ended up happening with this supervisor of mine. Was he wasn't the ultimate time manager. His supervisor had a whole different schedule of, okay, and if your supervisor says we're going to meet at this time, you're like, I guess I'm going to meet at that time. and have to change. So I think it's just
you could have the discussion. Hey, that's when I do these things. I find that when I coach people into talking with the employees you work with your vendors and find a mutually agreeable time, they often find that, oh, I didn't realize that you get to work at 7 a.m. What if we met at 7:30? You can't know that. I think there's a lot of assumption here. And I think one of the things that we've seen from working at home over the last year or so is that we've become more flexible around scheduling. You know, many people I would talk to would be like, I'm sorry, I really can't talk to you between 9 and 11 because that's when I've really got to get my kids into their school routine. Okay, how's 11:30? How's 1:30? How's 6:30? And having that open discussion, to me, the way to make time management effective is to have the discussion around time management. You know, Tom, when do you want to meet? Well, Bob, I really don't want to do it late in the afternoon because I'm officiating a lot, or I like to go work out, or I'm playing golf, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. And even if the person goes, look, I can't do afternoons. I don't care why you can't do afternoons. Give me a slot that works for you.
Right.
And when I was a reporter years ago, there'd be people like, oh, I don't have time for an interview. I'd be like, you tell me a time, anytime in the next 72 hours, day or night, and I'll be there. One guy called me on it. 2 a.m. Okay. Can I have your number, please? Sure. Here's the number. I'm going to call you at 2 a.m. Yeah. Okay. Right. Sure. Set my alarm for 1:50, got up, called him at 2 a.m. He's like, what the hell is this? I'm like, you said to call you at 2 a.m. He's like, how about you call me back at 6:30? As you wish, sir. Got my quote and moved on.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's interesting that and I think you're probably, it's true that we have almost become too automated, right? Mm-hmm. Well, just go to my calendar and book a time. And, how many times does that bite you? When you go back and look and like, oh man, yes, my time was free, but it butts right up against another meeting or I didn't factor in travel time or something.
Or I forgot to put the thing I was doing on my calendar because it just came up and I wasn't near my phone.
Yes.
I've done that twice in the last week.
So in some ways, that ability to what was supposed to be an efficiency, we share a calendar and I'll put it in here. Sometimes turns out to be not as effective as we thought because we don't always have it as up to date as it should be or could be. Right. And it doesn't have all the information, whereas if you're having a conversation around it, you can get all the information and figure out like, oh, okay, hey, you know what? I've got this butting up to it. And can we meet at 10:15 or 10:20 rather than 10?
Although I prefer an online calendar rather than the 57 emails back and forth. What about Tuesday at 4? How about Wednesday at 3:15? Those emails drive me crazy. I would much rather go to someone's calendar and say, oh, 9 a.m. Friday, perfect. I'll be there.
As long as it's updated.
But that's on the person, and when I don't update it correctly, it reinforces the need. And then I'm good for like a month and a half. And then there'll just be something that falls off the plate. And then I go through a cycle again. But for the cost, I think my online calendar is $10 a month. That might be the single best $10 I spend in my business.
Yeah. Well, I think it's true.
Yeah. I mean, you have an online calendar and it works a lot. I just think it takes a lot of the headaches out because what I say to people is, hey, find a convenient time on your calendar and match it to mine.
Right.
Makes it sound like it's fun, not go. There was a free tip for today. There's the right wording.
I think in the challenge is that you have to make sure that you have managed your calendar so that it is as effective. I guess it's one of those other things. If you are not using it effectively on your end, the ability to share it with someone else so that can save you time actually ends up probably costing you more time.
But if you're not managing your online calendar, your paper calendar, your in the brain calendar, it's the same thing.
Sure.
Oh, I forgot. I told my kids I was going to be at their last day of school. How was I supposed to know that? You scheduled a meeting. And I also think, if you handle it the right way, people are pretty okay with things. I mean, I've actually said to people once or twice, like last week, I said to someone, I had an opportunity to play golf this afternoon. I took it, and I saw you just scheduled. I'm planning to go play golf. Is there any way we can move this around? It was like, yeah, sure.
Right. I think that's what we find is that people are more accepting when they have all the information.
And also when we're consistent most of the time.
Sure.
Consistent most of the time might be the worst sentence ever. But I think when you know that if someone knows that you value their time, when there's a deviation, it's the exception. What becomes the rule is when, you miss the appointment or you're 10 minutes late, 2 or 3 meetings in a row. And next thing you know, now the other person's just assuming you're going to be 10 minutes late.
Correct. And sometimes it happens because you haven't shared all of the issues. One of my clients was having that challenge, is that one of their teammates, it was a Zoom meeting, and they always were showing up 5 minutes late. And when they finally talked to them about it, it just so happened that the time of that meeting was the transfer of one spouse managing the kid's school to the other so that the other could go do work. And so when they figured that out and they shifted the meeting 15 minutes, the person was no longer late because that gave them the time to do what they needed to do and then move forward.
So, Tom, what's your one thing today? We've covered a lot of different ground.
I think that the concept of communication is the way that we can start to manage ineffective time management. And and again, whether that communication is something like an online calendar, which at least allows others, without wasting the time of the back and forth emails or back and forth voice messages, that's a start. And the other is being upfront with people about, here are the challenges you face. And rather than trying to meet their expectation and say, okay, I'm going to fit this in even though I really don't have time, is not going to allow for effective time management. And so I think that communication piece can make all the difference in misunderstandings that can occur when we think. And I think the other piece about it is, if you're going to be late, to call and let people know, because things do happen. There's an accident that you cannot.
Although it's hard in Zoom world to be late.
Unless your Zoom is slow to load up. I mean, I've had that.
No. Have you ever had that happen, Tom?
Yeah.
Wait, have you had technology issues?
Easy now. There have been other people in this format who've had their technology issues.
I did. In the beginning, I did. Hey, I want to get Tim's comment in. Without my calendar, I am lost. I put everything that I schedule in my calendar, or chances are good that I will forget it. I don't know how people do it any other way. And I think that's what I've come to. And I will tell you, as I get older, I realize that I've got to write it down or else it will disappear. And when things start moving fast, that's when I'm less apt to write things down, but when I need it more. So, and I want to echo what you said in terms of the communication. I think I would add 2 adjectives to communication: open and honest communication. I think when you explain to people, hey, I've got this big project due tomorrow and I got behind on it, I think that creates a different know, like, and trust factor, because I know some of my clients are like, oh yeah, well, I would hope you do the same for me if you were doing something for me. And yeah. So often I think it's just like, oh, I can't make that meeting. Right. I find when I share with people, I can't make that meeting because my brother-in-law's in town and he wanted to play golf and I don't get to see him much and it just worked out. I'll pick a time that works. Oh, wow, I don't want to get in the way of that.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah. And there are times with you and me where we've said things to the other person about, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be available for this time period. And it's like, oh, wow. Yeah, that's a good reason. Like your graduation a couple weeks ago. I wasn't going to bother you on Saturday, no matter what. It's like, those things don't come up every day.
Correct.
And I also think it's a chance to tell people more about us. When I tell people,
sure,
I'm going to play golf with my brother-in-law, they're like, oh, you golf? Oh, I didn't know you were a golfer. So that gives you another entry point to building that relationship.
Excellent. Yeah, I like that. I think that, and it's funny that communication can be a antidote for many, many things, not just time management. So
just ruined the whole show for us, Tom. Now you just gave away the hint for the last 336 episodes.
It's not all about communication.
Thank goodness. We'll be back tomorrow, folks, to talk about something other than communication.
Wow, we got it going on today. All right.
I got a little pent-up energy. Yeah, it's been.
See that. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. If you want to share some of your thoughts about ineffective time management or ways that you avoid it, please feel free to share it in the comments below, or you can share it inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. It's easy to become a part of that. If you are not a member, just go to Facebook, search for Ring of Renegades, and then ask to join. It is a private community. All you have to do is tell us why you're a renegade. Because what we're trying to do is create a community of people who are trying to figure out their own unique pathway to success and typically how to take the next step. So if you're one of those people, please join us inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, or we will see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, for our next edition of today's Antidote. And here's some further information about the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. Have a great day, everyone.
Carving your own path is tough. You want and need a community to offer you insights and advice, share inspiration, provide support, and save you time and money. But where do you find all that? Here's the easy answer: the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, where leaders, entrepreneurs, and business owners identify their next steps. Here's some of what you will find at the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. Just go to ringofrenegades.com and join today. Find and accomplish those next steps.